Hi everyone, this is Sinchana.
This is Aarti.
And this is Prisha. Our project is evaluation of network performance in a cloud environment. As we all know, rapid development in the globalization era, the technology that humans use in day-to-day life continues to change at a fast pace. This present period is accomplished by one of the most commonly used media, the television media. Companies may license connections anything from a cloud service provider to software to services rather than buying their computing facilities or data centers. However, because the cloud is this system that delivers services, the computational system that covers this environment is required to function well with no interruptions in service or data loss. This means that the service provider should ensure proper network efficiency to win their clients' confidence and give them the expected satisfaction. Network parameters efficiency denotes the level of the performance, reliability, and availability offered by an application and the platform or infrastructure that hosts it. This research evaluates the network on cloud computing infrastructure, and the network parameters in the cloud computing are measured. The instances are created in Amazon Web Services, and the files are transferred between two instances to observe the parameters which affect the network efficiency in a cloud platform. As we are aware, virtualization is a technique for distinguishing the services for the services underlying physical execution. That's a method of making something like computer hardware with a simulated version. So while reducing the ecological footprint was not the significant concern of that era's organization, reducing the capital expenses were definitely. Virtualization for industry standard computing is motivated for several reasons today. The bandwidth on a single computer is so high that it's nearly difficult for most workloads to use it efficiently. The term cloud in a cloud computing refers to a collection of networks, much like a real cloud do with water molecules. The user will have unrestricted access to cloud computing whenever they are required, and the hosting and distribution mechanisms utilized to give the software are transferred towards cloud computing. Cloud computing is a type of service that delivers the make use of shared computer resources like data and software. Grid computing, service computing, and automated computing are three factors that make up the cloud computing technology. Uh, Next slide. Yeah, so if we have to discuss about the problem statement, this research evaluates the network on cloud computing infrastructure, which is expected to give us the informations like the effective transfer rate, latency, jitter, packet loss that occur on a cloud computing and simple cloud infrastructure topology. So this is the list of software and hardware that we use. So the software is Amazon Web Service, as I mentioned before, and the hardware requirements are a normal PC with suitable storage. So the objectives of our project are basically to create a cloud infrastructure using AWS and evaluating the QoS parameters as mentioned before, like latency, jitter, transfer rate, and uptime. Methodologically analyze the network performance in a cloud computing infrastructure, comparing the response time. I would like to hand over it next.
So this is the design methodology used in our work. So basically, we create an Amazon account first, and then we create two virtual machines using the Amazon Web Service. We use Putty to configure the instances and generate a private key, and then using the WinSCP tool to we transfer the file from the desktop to our virtual machine. Later, we observe the network parameters as mentioned before, like latency, jitter, transfer rate, and uptime. So this is how we create an instance in AWS. Uh, so now we can see that there are two instances created and they are both running. This is a finished instance, and here we can see using the IP address or the DNS, private IP4 DNS name, we can verify whether the VM is running. After creating, we open the VM using Putty. So this is the VM created. Later, we using like mentioned, using WinSCP tool, we transfer the file from desktop to our instance here. So here we can see our test file that has been transferred. Later, so now we created two instances, source instance and destination instance. In source from the source instance, we ping from one to the destination instance so that to check the connection between the two. Later, we establish an SSH connection to perform the to perform the transfer. So SSH is nothing but secure shell. It is a network communication protocol that enables the two computers to communicate. So we first open the text editor using a nano text editor, and later we configure by authenticating the RSA authentication, public key authentication, and the password authentication. Later we SSH to the user using the destination IP. So now we have logged in from the source instance to the destination instance. Later, we transfer the file using the SCP command. So this is the transferred file that we can see. The test video file has been transferred successfully from the source instance to the destination instance. Now I would like to hand it over to Trisha.
Thank you, Aarti. So coming to the parameters that we are taking into consideration is jitter, latency, transfer rate, and uptime. So jitter is nothing but the average of the time difference between each packet. In order to calculate this, all we need is the number of packets that have sent. So the difference between each packet, and then I get the average of the total number of packets. Before having any file transfer, the jitter over here is 0.055 milliseconds for a sequence of 7 packets. And while the file transferring is happening, we have taken 18 packets into consideration, and we have a jitter of 0.06 milliseconds. So from this we can see that while there is the transmitting of the file, the delay, that is the jitter, is increased. The command that is used over here is ping. The next parameter that we have is the latency, which is nothing but the time taken for the packet to reach its destination and then come back to us. So this is nothing but the round time delay, or we can call it as round trip delay. So here we see the minimum, maximum, and average latency. So without any file transfer also, we will be having some kind of latency. So it is over here, it is approximately an average of 0.461 millisecond. And while the file transferring is happening, we have a latency of 2.546 millisecond as the average. Third parameter that we see is the transfer rate, which is nothing but the amount of data which is transmitted over a given period of time between 2 points on an instance or a network. So when we are transferring, here we are transferring a file size of 1.149 GB. So it was having a transfer rate of 64.3 Mbps, and it took nearly 70 seconds for it to reach the destination. The fourth parameter that we see is the uptime, which is nothing but the amount of time a cloud service hosted by a cloud provider is accessible to an end user. So this is nothing but how much time does it take for me to file transfer to get completed. So it increases as the file transfer is happening, and then it comes to the idle state, which is 0.0 seconds once the file transfer is done. So in the result summary sheet, we can see all the 4 parameters before and during the file transfer, and we can see an increase in the time because of how much the file size is there. Meaning it depends upon the file size. Now I'll be handing it over to Sushana.
Thanks, Trisha. So I would like to conclude the presentation by mentioning few points on conclusion and future scope. So the proposed work focuses on a preliminary analysis to examine the performance of the cloud computing technology in the network. The preliminary target of the cloud computing environment does not show any meaningful stance towards the computer network evaluation. The network connects end customers who use cloud services with the cloud service providers' data centers. As a result, the performance of the network in a cloud computing environment was evaluated in this study. A given instance leverage latency is estimated to be between 2 milliseconds to 10 milliseconds when the file is transmitted using it. The instances created had maximum latency, which is nearer to the lower side of the average latency, and therefore infer that this case is more effective. The jitter found here is also low enough, which means high transmission speed. The transfer rate of the instance is adequate, but a lot can be improved though. The uptime is also very strong relative to the typical uptime value. As far as future scope is concerned, a realistic system is required which evaluates the cloud infrastructure's performance, which should further be investigated. Other cloud services such as database, queuing service, storage, and private cloud might be added in the future. By performing similar experiments on the other IaaS offerings, this study aims to assess the novel research areas as raised in the review of needed cloud enhancements in the long run. Future experiments are proposed to understand the end-to-end service efficiency by the end user. That's likely to include a technology of network present in the cloud world already. It also provides a transition in the use of cloud technology and its variety. This generates various patterns that concerns workloads requiring the development of suitable and flexible models, which accurately shows the generated traffic arriving from a different application to be studied by the future work. Thanks for your time.